Hi, it's spiritual psychic Cynthia Killian again here, also known as Psychic Cynthia, and welcome back to your Level 1 Awakening Your Inner Psychic video class series. And right now, I'd like to talk with you a little bit more about this inner psychic and perhaps a couple of things that the inner psychic needs from you. And maybe just help you to get more acquainted with the idea of what the inner psychic is, so you understand this part of yourself better and what you're going to need to do, what you're going to need to give to help awaken this part of yourself. And as we go through this video course, of course, we'll be doing a lot of different exercises, meditations, and chakra work, and, all the things that you probably would expect in a psychic course, and then more. And it isn't just about technique. When you work with awakening your inner psychic, this is a part of yourself. It's a part of your soul. So there's an aspect of this journey that isn't just what you would think of as regular psychic development, but it's more like soul development. How are you going to connect with this part of your soul? The inner psychic, as I see it and feel it and teach it, is basically a part of the inner self. So a lot of what is needed to awaken the inner self also applies to the inner psychic. Now, there are several things probably that the inner psychic would require from you, or would like to have from you, let's put it that way. But two things that are really required if you're going to be successful on this journey of awakening your inner psychic. Two things for sure that are required. The inner psychic and the inner self both require you to care about them. They require you to care, period, okay? You have to give a you-know-what to awaken this part of yourself. Because most people, again, out there in the mainstream, and many of us have lived life as part of the mainstream. So if you're thinking, oh, well, I'm kind of in the mainstream, well, that's okay, all right? But you can maybe be in the mainstream, or let's put it this way, you can be in the mainstream, but not of the mainstream, right? As Jesus taught, to be in the world, but not of the world. So you want to awaken and not really be of that kind of consciousness. So a lot of people in the mainstream are going along on autopilot, not really awake or aware, not noticing things, for example. And they're certainly not paying attention to their inner psychics, right? If they get a nudge or, some sort of sign from spirit, most people in the mainstream, well, they might notice it, but they obviously don't notice it all the time, okay? They're not paying a lot of attention to this inner psychic. And so that sends a message, if you're a person who doesn't pay attention to your inner psychic, well, first of all, if you don't even care about the psychic realm, you're not investing any time or energy into it, then you're not giving your inner psychic what it needs. Now, you're in this psychic course, so I'm thinking that, you do care about the inner psychic, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be enrolled in the course. But you do have to act like you care, to put the effort forth. And there are a lot of different ways you show your inner psychic that you care. But I think a lot of it just starts in your day-to-day life by caring about the decisions that are before you and your life choices. I don't know about you, but sometimes, like, let's say I'm watching Netflix with my husband, and he says, well, what show do you want to watch? It's this one, or that one. And I'll just say, I don't care. You pick one. And that's okay to do sometime, okay? But generally, your inner self and your inner psychic, they're looking for cues from you that you do care, that you're not apathetic, right? So even though it's okay, occasionally if you want to say, oh, I don't care what show we watch on Netflix or whatever, but think about areas of your life maybe where You might have become apathetic, just blah, I don't care anymore. And if you can, start caring a little bit more, because that's going to send a signal to your inner psychic that you're game for the higher game, okay? The higher game of awakening in our psyche. And that will be very helpful. So, I don't know what areas where you might have been apathetic. It could be your weight, it could be your finances, it could be your relationships, it could be, your wardrobe. I mean, it could be like you just kind of stop giving a crap about how you look, right? For example. Not that we all have to be like models or anything, but it's fun to play with color and to certainly wear clothing that expresses our personality, for example. So start thinking about how you can, get more in the game, so to speak, how you can care more. I mean, it may sound like a strange thing to say that that's part of your psychic development, but it very much is, showing the inner psychic that you care about life, you're engaged. And of course, most importantly, as it relates to your psychic awakening, you'll need to show the inner psychic that you care about it, that you do want to awaken your sixth sense, your ability to feel, to see, to commune with the spirit guides, and so on. And how do you do that? I mean, I think you're doing that by watching these videos. That's a good start. It's not the end all be all, but it's certainly a significant start. I mean, you have just sent your inner psychic a major, big signal by enrolling in this course and actually watching the videos. Your inner psychic is seeing you do this and is saying, wow, she or he is getting really serious about this stuff. So this is a good start. Other ways that you show your inner psychic that you're serious are by every day, at least once. I mean, if not like 10 times a day, okay? All right, you may be new to this path, so let's say 1 to 3 times a day. But the more you develop, the more continual it becomes. You want to be checking in with your inner psychic. And how do you do that? Well, there's a lot of ways, and of course, we're going to be covering different various methods throughout these videos. But I think it could start right now, just by maybe closing your eyes for a moment and taking a deep breath in. Breathing is so important. Breathing is, listen to the sound of the word breathing. Sounds like reading. So breathing is the bridge between the physical realms and the non-physical realms. So even if you'll just take a moment or two, like we're doing here, to breathe and just think to yourself, I'm opening to my inner psychic now. And then just sort of put your awareness out there. Imagine that your awareness is extending out in all directions in the room you're in. And maybe beyond, you could go outside the ceiling and the walls and the floor and just feel that your awareness is moving out in periphery, and check in and see what you're feeling. If there are people around, maybe reach out and touch them with your energy, just to get a feel for them. Just quickly, you reach out. Now, I'm in a room where there's no other people right now, but there are many plants. And so as I'm expanding my aura out, which is what you're doing when you do this, okay? You're expanding your aura. The moment you begin to imagine your consciousness going in different directions and expanding out, that's, it's not only your aura, it's your inner psychic is moving out. So she's moving out or he's moving out and feeling the room around her. So this is something you can do to show that your inner psychic that you care. And in the room I'm in, I'm moving out to feel all the plants that are around me. And then there's also one of my kitty cat friends is over there on the other side of the room. He hasn't decided to make an appearance yet, so I guess he'll not be in this video. But I can reach out and feel his energy from here. So that's something small that you can do. Okay, we'll have more exercises like that, but that's just a beginning. before you go to bed at night, you can talk to your angels and guides. You can relax a little, meditate, do some deep breathing like we did, and then ask your angels and guides to show you anything that you need to see in your dreamland when you go to sleep. Asking your inner psychic for guidance, giving permission, consciously requesting guidance. This is something that your inner psychic would like to have from you. So if you'll do that, and you'll do that regularly, and you'll do that consciously, and you'll do that daily, and you'll think about your inner psychic. I mean, it's just like any other relationship in some ways. Your inner psychic, like any other partner, would require or desire you to engage with it, to think about it, and perhaps to ask its questions. You know, one thing you could do as soon as you're done with this video, or even right now, if you have something to write with, why don't you write down a question, a simple question, something that you're thinking about in life? Not a yes or no necessarily, but something, I mean, I guess it could be, but I'd like to see you go deeper than that. So something that you want more information about, even if it's just a situation, write that down. And then ask your inner psychic, what do you think? You could even write down, inner psychic, what do you think about blank? Could you tell me more about blank? Inner psychic, I'm open to signs about blank. And listen, the answers don't always come right away, dear one. I mean, sometimes they do, and that's wonderful. But the inner psychic might require some patience from you because, you know, if you have been not developing this relationship very long, in other words, if you're newer to this, or if you're in the habit of not listening to your inner psychic or ignoring it, it's going to need some coaxing. So it's going to take some time, right? You have to show it. So don't be mad or upset if the answers don't come right away. That will close the door, okay? Being pushy or overly insistent, I don't think that works well in the psychic development. In my experience, at least, maybe it does for somebody, but not for people I've seen. So these are some thoughts to keep in mind of what to do and not do, okay, on your psychic path. And the other thing that the inner psychic does really thrive on, if you'll give this to your inner psychic, is acknowledgement. When you feel that you have received something from your inner psychic, acknowledge it. Don't ignore it. Don't discredit it. And we'll talk more about that later, you know, about some of the mental blocks that come up. But just know that your inner psychic, you know, especially in the beginning, the relationship that you have with it might be somewhat fragile and just beginning, just growing in a conscious way, okay? So if you ignore it or discredit it or don't give it acknowledgement, then that tends to cut off the relationship or at least diminish it. Whereas if you ask the inner psychic for guidance on a daily basis, hopefully, if you start listening more and then you honor and acknowledge, I mean, even if it tells you to do something kind of silly, if you feel this inner nudge, a friend of mine said she once felt a nudge from her, I think it was her guides, which might be a little different than your inner psychic, but it's all connected, okay? And her guides or her inner psychic told her to go drink pickle juice. And she did it, and then later on she realized that it was just like they were trying to help build the trust. So trust your inner psychic. I mean, unless it tells you to do something really crazy that would be harmful to yourself or someone, which it never would. That would not be your inner psychic, okay? So think about these things in the weeks ahead and give your inner psychic what it needs, the trust and the attention and the care, and you will thrive in the awakening of your inner psychic. Until next time, blessings.